In the bustling halls of Crestwood Academy, Celeste Harrington walked with an air of confidence. Her designer outfit hugged her perfectly, and her hair cascaded around her shoulders like a shimmering waterfall. Peers glanced her way, their eyes filled with admiration. "Look at her," one girl whispered. "She's just perfect." Celeste smiled, soaking in the praise. But there was more to her than beauty. She thrived on being the center of attention. As she turned a corner, Celeste's eyes landed on Nora Ellis. Nora stood framed by the classroom door, her faded dress hanging awkwardly on her slender frame. With her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, she looked small and timid. A flicker of something stirred within Celeste, an impulse to remind everyone who was truly in charge. "Hey, Nora!" Celeste called out, her voice dripping with mock cheer. The group of classmates gathered around her turned their heads, intrigued. "Did you get that dress from a thrift shop? It looks like it's seen better days." Laughter erupted, echoing off the walls, filling the corridor with a cruel energy. Celeste grinned, reveling in their amusement, but then she noticed Nora's face. Nora's smile faltered, and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. In that moment, a flicker of regret sparked in Celeste's heart. Was this what it felt like to hurt someone? But the moment passed quickly, and she brushed the feeling aside, focusing instead on the laughter that surrounded her. It was easier to ignore the discomfort than to confront it. As the day continued, Celeste felt the weight of the laughter begin to fade, replaced by something heavier. Her friends shot her disapproving looks, their smiles now tight-lipped and forced. Jacob, her closest friend, approached her during lunch, concern etched on his face. "Celeste, what was that earlier? You really shouldn't have said that to Nora," he urged, his tone serious. "Come on, Jacob, it was just a joke," Celeste replied, but a knot formed in her stomach. Everyone laughed. "Yeah, but at what cost?" Jacob pressed, his brow furrowing. "You need to think about how your words can hurt people. You're better than that." "Am I?" Celeste muttered under her breath, her confidence beginning to waver. She tossed her hair over her shoulder and turned her attention back to her food, but Jacob's words lingered in her mind, echoing louder than the laughter that had once filled the air. Later that day, Celeste found herself staring into the mirror in the school restroom. The reflection looking back at her was not just the privileged girl she always saw. She noticed the faint cracks in her perfect facade, the uncertainty in her eyes. What if she was losing everything she held dear? The thought frightened her, but she quickly dismissed it. Meanwhile, Nora sat with her friends in a corner of the cafeteria, trying to shake off the sting of Celeste's words. Her heart ached, but there was strength in her friend's presence. "Don't let her get to you," one of them said, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You know who you are, and that's what matters." Nora nodded, though the hurt lingered. She kept her chin up, reminding herself that she was more than the clothes she wore. As the final bell rang, Celeste left school with a sense of unease. The laughter from earlier faded, replaced by a haunting silence. Her heart raced with confusion. Was she really the person she wanted to be? The question hung in the air, unresolved and heavy, as she walked home, the shadows of her actions trailing behind her like a dark cloud. The sun hung high in the sky as the school day wore on, casting long shadows in the hallways of Maplewood Academy. Celeste Harrington felt a familiar thrill from the attention of her peers, but today, something felt off. As she walked past her friends, she noticed their disapproving glances. Jacob, a close friend, stepped forward, concern etched across his face. "Celeste, can we talk?" he asked, his voice low. "What is it?" Celeste replied, a hint of annoyance creeping into her tone. She didn't want to deal with any negativity right now. "It's about what you said to Nora," Jacob said, looking around to ensure no one was listening. "I don't think you realize how hurtful that was." Celeste rolled her eyes. "It was just a joke, Jacob. You know how people are. They laugh it off." "But do you?" Jacob pressed. "You're better than that. You need to think about what your words can do to someone." Nora looked really upset. A wave of irritation washed over Celeste, But there was something in Jacob's voice that made her pause. She had always valued his opinion. "I didn't mean to hurt her," she muttered, glancing away. Jacob sighed. "I know you didn't, but it's about time you start reflecting on your actions. You have a lot going for you, but you can lose it all if you keep this up." Celeste felt her heart sink a little. She pushed her way through the crowd, trying to shake off the weight of his words. She found herself in the restroom, staring into the mirror. Her reflection looked perfect. Flawless hair, designer clothes, and an air of confidence. Yet, beneath that exterior, she felt a flicker of doubt. "What am I doing?" she whispered to herself. The girl in the mirror looked back with a mix of pride and fear. Was she really the person she wanted to be? Meanwhile, Nora Ellis sat in the corner of the cafeteria, her head down, picking at her lunch. The humiliation from earlier still stung, but her friends surrounded her, offering support. "You know, she's just a bully," said Mia, one of Nora's closest friends. "Don't let her get to you." Nora forced a smile. "I know, it's just hard sometimes. I wish I could be more like you guys." "Don't say that," Jake chimed in. "You're amazing, just the way you are. We believe in you." The warmth of their encouragement wrapped around Nora like a comforting blanket. Their support gave her strength, pushing her to rise above the moment. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that she had a voice and deserved to be heard. Back in the hallway, Celeste's thoughts swirled. She could still see the hurt in Nora's eyes, and it made her stomach turn. She had always been the queen of her social circle, but now she felt like a fraud. The laughter from her classmates echoed in her mind, but so did Jacob's words. "Maybe I should talk to her," Celeste murmured. The thought scared her, but it also felt necessary. As the day went on, she tried to focus on her classes, but her mind kept drifting back to the encounter with Nora. The weight of her arrogance settled heavily on her shoulders, and for the first time, she truly felt the consequences of her actions. At the end of the day, Celeste stood by her locker, her heart racing. "What if she hates me?" she thought, biting her lip. The idea of facing Nora felt daunting, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to make things right. The bell rang, and students began to flood the hallways. Celeste took a deep breath, summoning her courage. She spotted Nora standing with her friends, laughing softly, a sound that made Celeste's heart ache. "Just do it," she whispered to herself. "You owe her this." With determination, she started to walk over, her palms sweating and her heart pounding. This was her chance to confront the weight of her arrogance and take a step toward redemption. But would Nora be willing to listen? Only time would tell. Celeste Harrington sat in the waiting room of the hospital, her heart heavy with worry. The news about her grandmother had come as a shock, and now she felt a deep sense of dread. She had always admired her grandmother's strength and kindness, and the thought of losing her was unbearable. As she looked around at her family, gathered closely together, she noticed the way they held each other, their faces drawn tight with concern. "I can't believe this is happening," Celeste whispered to herself, feeling a wave of sadness wash over her. She remembered the times her grandmother had cheered her on, always proud of her achievements, no matter how small. In this moment, surrounded by the hum of the hospital, Celeste realized how fragile life could be. As she sat there, she felt a stark contrast between her family's genuine concern and her own superficial worries. For so long, she had focused on being perfect, on her clothes, her popularity, and her status at school. Now, faced with the possibility of losing someone she loved, those things seemed so unimportant. Celeste watched her mother hold her grandmother's hand tightly, whispering words of comfort. "You're going to be okay, Mom. We're all here for you," her mother said softly, tears glistening in her eyes. Celeste's heart ached at the sight. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a spark of empathy igniting within her. Suddenly, a thought crossed her mind. What if she reached out to Nora, the girl she had hurt with her cruel words back at school? Celeste, felt a knot in her stomach at the memory of how she had laughed at Nora's dress, how she had felt so superior at that moment. But now, seeing her family's love and concern, she wondered if she could find the courage to apologize. As the hours passed, Celeste's resolve grew stronger. She knew she had to make things right. After a long wait, the doctor finally came out to speak with the family. "Your grandmother is stable for now. We will continue to monitor her, and we are hopeful," he said, offering a small smile. Celeste felt a rush of relief, but it was mixed with a sense of urgency to change her ways. Later that evening, as the family took a break in the hospital cafeteria, Celeste found a quiet corner. She pulled out her phone and stared at Nora's contact. It felt strange, almost foreign. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. What if she doesn't forgive me? What if she hates me? Celeste thought, fear bubbling up inside her. But then she remembered her grandmother's strength and the love that surrounded her. "I have to try," she whispered to herself. Gathering her courage, she typed a message. "Hey Nora, it's Celeste. I know I hurt you, and I'm really sorry. I want to talk. Can we meet?" She hesitated before hitting send, her heart racing. Moments later, her phone buzzed with a reply. "Okay, I'll meet you tomorrow at lunch." A mix of relief and anxiety flooded through her. Tomorrow, she would face Nora, and she hoped it would lead to healing. That night, as Celeste lay in bed, she couldn't shake off the nervous energy. She kept replaying memories of her grandmother's laughter, the way she always made everyone feel loved. "I want to be more like her," Celeste thought. It was a simple resolution, but it felt monumental. The next day, Celeste walked into the school with a new determination. She found Nora sitting alone at a lunch table, her head bent over a book. Taking a deep breath, Celeste approached her, her heart pounding in her chest. "Hey Nora," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Nora looked up, surprise flickering across her face. "Celeste?" she replied, her tone cautious but curious. "I want to talk. Can we sit?" Celeste gestured to the empty seat across from Nora. With a nod, Nora closed her book and set it aside. As they sat together, Celeste felt the weight of her past actions pressing down on her. "I'm really sorry for what I said. It was wrong, and I regret it," she began, her voice shaking slightly. "I let my pride get in the way, and I hurt you. I never meant to make you feel that way." Nora looked at her, her expression a mix of hurt and strength. "It was hard to hear that from you, Celeste. I felt so small," she replied softly. "I understand," Celeste said, her eyes sincere. "I've been thinking about it a lot, especially with everything going on with my grandmother. It made me realize how important it is to be kind and to lift each other up." Nora nodded slowly, and for the first time, Celeste saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes. "Thank you for saying that. It means a lot," Nora replied, her voice steadier now. In that moment, something shifted between them. Celeste felt a sense of relief wash over her, and she could see the walls starting to come down. They were two girls, both struggling in their own ways, but now there was a chance for something new. Celeste felt her heart race as she approached the lunch table where Nora sat alone. The chatter of her classmates filled the room, but all she could hear was the pounding in her chest. Trembling hands gripped the edge of the table, her palms slick with sweat. She had practiced what to say 1,000 times, but now, confronted with the moment, words eluded her. Taking a deep breath, Celeste stepped closer. "Nora," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Nora looked up, surprise flickering across her eyes. Her expression was unreadable, a mix of hurt and strength that only deepened Celeste's unease. "Can we talk?" Celeste asked, her voice steadier now. She felt exposed under the curious gazes of their classmates, who had started to notice the exchange. Nora hesitated, but nodded slowly. "Okay," she replied, her tone cautious. She stood up and followed Celeste to a quieter corner of the cafeteria, away from prying eyes and ears. Once they were out of the spotlight, Celeste felt a momentary wave of relief wash over her. But as she looked at Nora, the weight of her guilt came rushing back. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I was really mean to you the other day. I didn't think about how my words would hurt you. I was just trying to impress everyone." Nora crossed her arms, her brow furrowing. "It did hurt," she admitted, her eyes searching Celeste's face for sincerity. "You made me feel small, like I didn't belong." "I know," Celeste said, her heart sinking. "And I regret it. I've been thinking a lot about how I treat people. My grandmother is sick, and it made me realize how fragile life really is. I don't want to be someone who brings others down." Nora's expression softened slightly, and Celeste saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes. "I appreciate your apology," she said carefully, "but it's going to take time for me to trust you." "I get that," Celeste replied, feeling a mix of hope and fear. "I just want you to know that I'm trying to change. I want to understand you better, to learn about who you really are." Nora tilted her head, curiosity replacing some of the wariness. "What do you want to know?" she asked, her tone more open now. Celeste took a step closer, feeling a spark of connection. "What do you like to do? What are your dreams?" she asked, genuinely interested. Nora hesitated, then smiled shyly. "I love to draw. I want to become an artist one day, but I'm not sure if I'm good enough." Her voice was soft, yet it carried a weight of passion. "Really? That's amazing," Celeste exclaimed, her enthusiasm bubbling over. "I'd love to see your drawings." Nora's cheeks flushed slightly at the compliment. "Maybe someday," she said quietly, but her eyes sparkled with a hint of hope. As they continued to talk, Celeste felt the walls she had built around herself begin to crumble. She learned about Nora's love for nature and how she often drew inspiration from the world around her. With each shared story, Celeste found herself captivated by Nora's resilience and creativity. "I never saw you this way before," Celeste admitted. "I was so caught up in my own world that I didn't notice how strong you really are." Nora looked down, a small smile playing on her lips. "It's okay. People often don't see what's beneath the surface. We all have our battles." Celeste nodded, feeling a rush of gratitude. "Thank you for listening to me. I hope we can start over. I'd like to be friends, if you're open to it." Nora glanced at Celeste, and for the first time, her expression was warm. "I think I'd like that," she replied, her voice steady. "But let's take it slow." As they returned to the bustling cafeteria, a tentative bond began to take shape between the two girls. Celeste felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She glanced at Nora, who was now smiling, and felt a spark of hope for their future. In that moment, Celeste understood that the journey to redemption had just begun, but she was ready to embrace it. As the weeks passed, Celeste and Nora discovered a new rhythm in their lives. They began to attend school events together, sharing laughter and moments that bridged the gap between their once distant worlds. Each day brought fresh experiences, and with each experience, they unearthed common interests that surprised them both. One sunny afternoon, they found themselves at the school's art fair. Celeste admired the colorful paintings displayed on the walls. "I never knew how talented everyone was," she said, her eyes wide with wonder. Nora smiled, her confidence growing. "Yeah, it's amazing what people can create. I always loved painting, but I never showed anyone." "Really? You should. I'd love to see your work," Celeste encouraged, her sincerity shining through. Nora hesitated for a moment but then nodded. "Maybe I will. You know, you're different than I thought. You're really nice." Celeste felt a warmth spread through her. "Thanks, Nora. And you're not just the shy girl I used to think you were. You have so much to offer." Their conversation flowed easily, and as they walked through the fair, they began to face skepticism from their peers. Some of their classmates whispered and pointed, unsure of how to react to this unexpected friendship. "Look at them," one girl said to her friend, rolling her eyes. "What a strange pair." Celeste's heart raced, but she held her head high. "Let them talk. We're not doing anything wrong," she replied, glancing at Nora, who met her gaze with a determined look. Yeah, it doesn't matter what they think. We know who we are, Nora said, her voice steady. With each passing day, Celeste slowly embraced her vulnerabilities. She started to understand the value of authenticity and kindness, stepping away from her former friends who thrived on superficiality. She noticed how her old friends often made fun of others, and it made her uncomfortable. One afternoon, during a lunch break, Celeste sat with Nora and a few of Nora's friends. They laughed, shared stories, and Celeste felt a sense of belonging she had never experienced before. "Celeste, you've changed so much," one of Nora's friends said, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "You're so much fun now." "Really? I didn't think I was fun before," Celeste replied, half joking, but she felt a hint of pride at the compliment. Nora chimed in, "You are. You just had to let go of the pressure to be perfect." Celeste nodded. "Yeah, it's kind of freeing to just be myself." Nora beamed, and the warmth between them deepened. Inspired by Celeste's growth, Nora also found the courage to uplift others. She began to speak up for students who were shy or bullied, becoming a beacon of resilience within her friend group. One day, after school, they sat on a bench discussing the recent bullying incidents that had made their peers uncomfortable. "I can't believe some people think it's okay to treat others like that," Celeste said, her brows furrowed in anger. "We need to do something." Nora's eyes lit up with an idea. "What if we organize a campaign? We could create posters and spread messages about kindness. Show everyone that it's okay to be different." Celeste's heart raced at the thought. "That's brilliant. Let's do it." Together, they spent hours designing colorful posters that read messages like, "Be kind," and "Embrace differences." They spent their weekends hanging them around school, encouraging others to join their cause. The chapter reached a turning point during a school assembly when they stood up together to address the entire student body. Their voices echoed through the gym as they spoke about the importance of kindness and acceptance. "Everyone deserves to feel safe and valued," Celeste declared, her confidence radiating. Nora stood beside her, nodding in agreement. "We can all make a difference by standing up against bullying. Let's support each other." As they finished their speech, the gym erupted in applause. In that moment, Celeste and Nora knew their friendship had solidified into something powerful. They were no longer just two girls from different worlds. They were allies in a shared journey of growth, determined to create a better environment for everyone. Their bond, forged in vulnerability and understanding, became a testament to the strength of true friendship. As the school year moved forward, Celeste Harrington and Nora Ellis became an inseparable duo. Their friendship blossomed into something beautiful, and together, they began to advocate for a more inclusive environment at their elite school. They wanted to inspire their classmates to embrace their uniqueness, just as they had learned to do. One sunny afternoon, Celeste and Nora sat under a large oak tree on the school lawn. The leaves rustled gently in the breeze, and students passed by, some casting curious glances at the two girls. Celeste looked at Nora, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I think we should organize a talent show," she suggested, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "It could be a great way for everyone to share what they love." Nora smiled, her cheeks turning a light shade of pink. "That sounds amazing. We could include everyone, not just the popular kids. It would be nice to see what other people can do." Celeste nodded, feeling a surge of pride. She had come a long way from the girl who once hid behind her status. "Let's do it then. We can make posters and talk to the teachers," she said, her heart racing with determination. As they planned the talent show, their idea spread like wildfire through the school. Students began to buzz with excitement, and soon they were gathered in the cafeteria, eager to sign up. Celeste and Nora moved from table to table, encouraging their classmates to share their talents, whether it was singing, dancing, or even magic tricks. "Come on, Sarah, you have a beautiful voice," Celeste urged a shy girl sitting alone. Sarah looked up, hesitating. "I don't know. What if I mess up?" Nora leaned closer, her voice warm and reassuring. "Everyone is nervous at first, but remember, It's about having fun and supporting each other. You won't be alone up there." Slowly, Sarah nodded, and a smile broke across her face. "Okay, I'll do it." As the weeks passed, the talent show became a symbol of unity among the students. Celeste and Nora watched as their classmates began to shine, sharing their passions and embracing each other's differences. They felt a sense of fulfillment with each new participant who signed up. One day, while they were hanging up posters in the hallway, Celeste turned to Nora with a serious expression. "You know, I never thought I could feel this way about school. I used to care so much about being popular, but now I just want to help others feel good about themselves." Nora smiled, her eyes shining with understanding. "That's the power of connection, Celeste. When you start to care about others, everything changes. It's like a light turns on inside." Celeste nodded, feeling a warmth in her heart. She remembered the lonely days when she had felt superior but empty. Now, she felt richer than ever, surrounded by friendships built on kindness and support. As the day of the talent show approached, excitement filled the air. The gymnasium was decorated with colorful banners, and students practiced their acts backstage, buzzing with anticipation. Celeste and Nora stood at the entrance, their hearts racing with pride as they watched their classmates come alive. "Look at everyone, they are so happy," Celeste said, her voice filled with joy. Nora nodded, her eyes sparkling. "This is what we wanted to create, a place where everyone feels accepted." When the talent show began, the gym echoed with cheers and applause. Each act showcased unique talents, and the energy in the room was electric. Celeste felt a sense of belonging that she had never experienced before. She turned to Nora. "I'm so glad we did this. It feels like a dream." After the final act, the crowd erupted into applause. Celeste and Nora stood side by side, beaming with pride. They had not only organized an event, they had created a community. Later, as the crowd began to disperse, Celeste took a moment to reflect. She knew that her journey had changed her in ways she could never have imagined. "Nora," she said softly, "I realize now that true wealth isn't about status or popularity. It's about the connections we make and the love we share." Nora smiled, her face glowing with warmth. "Exactly, Celeste. Pride means nothing without the respect and love of others. We've built something beautiful together." In that moment, surrounded by laughter and light, Celeste understood the true power of connection. She had transformed from a girl driven by pride to a young woman who cherished the bonds she had formed. And as she looked at Nora, she knew that their friendship was the greatest treasure of all. Share this story if you believe that friendship can create a powerful community and make a difference in the world. Leave a comment about a time when you felt supported by friends or how you embraced your uniqueness. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories like this.